to Shades of Havana, where you can leave the harsh, cruel world behind, even if for just a moment. With a fine cigar, fine spirits, and fine conversation, let us take you on an escape where ideas are encouraged, opinions valued, and worries fade away like a wisp of smoke. Pull up a chair, join our host David Zimmel, along with his unique special guests, and relax in the shades of Havana.
Welcome to Shades of Havana. We're here at Hollywood Golf Club. We just recently were ranked 59th in the country for classic courses. We're very proud of that ranking. We just had a great competition on the golf course. Mario and I took Billy and John to the cleaners.
Yes, we did.
Won our $50, but it was great competition. We had a great time. I am smoking a Davidoff special tea. Which I lit up on the golf course and now is my celebration cigar. Why don't we introduce ourselves and tell everybody what we're smoking?
I'm Billy Huelster. I'm smoking a My Father product, Flor de las Antilles Maduro. It's my favorite cigar, my go-to everyday smoke.
Abstract propaganda and
My name is John Doyle. I'm smoking a Special R by Davidoff, my go-to cigar. And actually having a Heineken, zero alcohol, only 68 calories. And today was just a great day, David. The Shades match, you're right. You and Mario kicked our tails, and happy to pay you.
Only one day.
It was one day.
You can
One
do it
round.
right next.
I'm Mario Gallucci. I'm smoking my COVID cigar, which has become my regular go-to, which is a Liga Privada, number 9.
lunch in the cabana, rolling ganja and cigars from Havana, view panorama.
I'm drinking a Johnny Walker Black. I collect Scotch from blends, which is Johnny Walker Black, all the way up to, Macallan 30 and your single malts. It was a great round. This is one of the most beautiful golf courses.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a host. Gorgeous.
My
out
pleasure.
there.
Thank you.
Nice
It was
round.
great.
I love the signature hole.
Yeah, it was
beautiful.
really
hole.
nice. So it was great to play here. I do enjoy traveling to different courses. I find it exciting. You get to see all the different courses throughout the country. One of my favorite courses is Secession, and John mentioned to me today that he was one of the initial members at the club. John, that is one of the great golf courses around.
You know,
just a
Beaufort-
great place.
Beaufort, South Carolina, what a beautiful place.
Really nice.
Right? And Mike Harmon, the golf pro, as you were sharing, just recently retired. The South is just gorgeous. Yeah, one of those special places. If you haven't played it, put it on the bucket
Yeah,
list.
and as I said, I really enjoy traveling around at different courses. Unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 virus, I haven't traveled any place. Has anybody here gotten into an airplane yet and attempted to travel?
I'm traveling in September. I'm going to the Kentucky Derby.
Nice.
And that's the first time. I'm a little, reticent about it, but I'll make it through. I'm gonna get on the plane. I'll put my mask on. My son just flew up recently, and he said there were like 7 people on his plane, and they were very well spread out. Everybody wore a mask. My wife picked him up at the airport. She said it was surreal. She drives into Newark Airport. There was no traffic. There was no wait. My son was actually sitting on the curb waiting for it to come out, which has never happened.
Well, it's amazing because I had to drive to New York 2 weeks ago, and I'm driving down the turnpike, and I looked at Newark Airport. That wasn't a plane on the property.
Yeah.
It was amazing. That was really surreal. Not one airplane. It was really crazy.
Interesting, about 7 weeks ago, I had to go to Columbus, Ohio. We're working with a company, ABC Supply. They have over 900 roofing stores throughout the country. And as I looked at the airplane, and you see it on TV, all the different challenges that you have, but they have disinfectant, doing a wonderful job, but I decided to drive the 7.5 hours. Just wasn't comfortable yet. But I can't wait to get back in the air and start traveling for business as well as for personal pleasure.
What do we think? I mean, when do you think we're going to be in a position where there's some normalcy? We don't really know.
I mean, I said from the beginning, things won't get back to a new normal, because I don't think it's going to be normal for a while, but there has to be a vaccine and approved treatments for people who do get really sick from this. I was telling you earlier how I feel about, I just think that people need to be responsible. It's not about you. It really isn't about your civil liberties being, being stomped on. It's about being a good neighbor, being a good family member, worrying about somebody else who might be susceptible to get really sick. You may be asymptomatic, but you might be bringing that virus to somebody who's got a compromised immune system.
But where do we stop with your civil liberties getting stomped on? For example, we spoke earlier about, be responsible, wear a mask. If you go into a store, you should wear a mask, right? And that's one civil liberty you're giving up. You have to wear a mask. But I see a slippery slope. I'll give you an example. As you know, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I was retained by a client 4 months ago who's charged with murdering his stepfather. Under normal circumstances, a grand jury would have been convened, evidence would have been given, and he would have been charged, indicted, as they say, on the murder charge, or maybe not, maybe on a lesser charge, and entitled to some sort of bail. Instead, I surrendered him in April. He sits in jail without bail. He has no constitutional rights as we're going forward right now in neither New York or New Jersey. So, I see a slippery slope coming here. I understand, the mask, I get a lot of it, but when do some rights come back?
I think that we have to get back to some level of normalcy. I'm a believer that everything should be open. Now, having said that, I don't think things should be open irresponsibly. So you talk about schools, you talk about, court cases, the backlog, everything's backed up and and it's going to have to come to a head at some point. But open up the courts, open up the schools. If you don't want to go, if you're not comfortable sending your child, you have the right to keep them at home. Let them learn, from a computer. Or the schools have a responsibility. So maybe you cut down the classroom size, and maybe some kids go, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and the other kids go Tuesday, Thursday. We need to get back into somewhat of a normal pattern of life, but we need to do it responsibly. Masks have to be worn when you're in public spaces. You have to be 6 feet apart. It's not asking a lot. I just think that, we're holding back so much that at some point it's going to explode. I spoke earlier about the small businesses,
The restaurants.
The small businesses, the restaurants, the bars, the service industry, the hotels. Yeah, everybody's behind the 8 ball, and these small businesses especially are getting hit very, very hard. And I said to a friend of mine, I said, listen, if the government can bail out Ford, General Motors,
United,
all the airlines, if they could bail them out, but they better put some money aside for small businesses, because that's the heart and soul of this country is small businesses. They need help. That's where the money should be headed. Forget the politics part of it, because they're going to fight no matter what. If a Democrat says blue, the Republican says red, and it's never going to be. But they have a responsibility to get the funds into the hands of the right people. When they first started this, you remember a few months ago they gave out all this money to all these restaurants. TGI Fridays got $25 million. Whoa, wait a minute, $25 million. How about the guy on the corner who can't even open up the doors?
They got $25 million and they're closing like 60 restaurants.
Yeah, it's crazy. But the government has a responsibility to help these people. And I want to support them. I want to be able to walk into a restaurant with my wife on a Saturday night. I'll wear a mask. There's 30% capacity, 40% capacity. They should do that now. If it means that they have to put new air filters in, put new air filters in.
Yeah, but if you could walk into, like they're doing in New York and New Jersey, if you could walk into, my wife's a school teacher, and they're saying she's got to go back to school, which is fine. She taught, I watched her teach, virtual, across the kitchen table from me. I was doing court cases, she was teaching, and it was unbelievable watching it. But the kids, if they go back to school, why can't you go inside of a restaurant?
I'm with you, I agree. But how about this? During this whole pandemic, the malls were closed, right? You can't get into a mall. An independent store, they were closed. You couldn't get into them. You could go into Walmart. Now, if I need to go to Walmart to buy food, or I need to go to Target to buy food, that's one thing. But no, you could go buy a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, and a 60-inch flat screen TV. Where's the justification?
Or a pair of pants.
Right. Where's the justification in that? It's all bullshit.
Mario,
it's bullshit.
What's interesting is there is no grand jury that you can do via Zoom. They're not doing that?
No, they can't. It's hard. The grand jurors, there's 23 people that got subpoenaed to sit on a grand jury. So one, when you get those people and they're sequestered, not sequestered, but they're chosen for a month, most of those people have been out of work. Now they're slowly getting back to work. Who's going to say, oh, yeah, I'll go sit for another month with barely any income and do it? You have to reestablish most grand jury rooms are tight little corded rooms. They have to now expand those into bigger places so they could social distance them. And now you're having difficulties like I talked about, that one case that I had in April. All the witnesses now are 4 months removed from the incident before they've been spoken to by a detective, by a DA, by anybody else. It's really going to affect the criminal justice system.
Well, what do you think, talking about criminal justice, what do you think about bail reform, the changes in bail reform?
Bail reform in New York, initially, they didn't do it like Jersey did. Jersey gave the judges some discretion. If the judge believed that a person should be incarcerated because they are a danger to society, forget about whether they will return to court. That's what bail is for, whether you return to court. But there's also a component on whether this person is a danger to society. When New York did the bail reform, which just started this year, right before COVID, there was no judge discretion. So people being charged with a crime like criminal possession of a weapon that went into a bank, but didn't display that weapon in a way that was threatening, they had to automatically be released without bail. Judge had no discretion. They've since tried changing some of that, but then we hit COVID. So, and it gives nobody any urgency to resolve their case. If they're out on the street and, well, now cases getting adjourned. I got cases adjourned until November.
Mario, didn't I see you on Fox News?
Yes.
And how long have you been on Fox?
I've done Fox, I've done MSNBC. I do consulting on both of them. Whenever there's like a bail reform issue, they'll bring me on and tell me, what do you think about this?
I'm surprised they let you do both MSNBC and Fox, because when I drive to work in the morning, I try to listen to both stations to get. It's like I'm in a different country. Okay, I mean, it's crazy.
So if I'm on MSNBC, I'm the counterpoint. I'm the criminal defense attorney counterpoint to their argument. If I'm on Fox, I am the point. So that there's the difference. But it's the same argument. It's the same argument. It's just a different perspective.
But David, to your point, I do the same thing. I'll listen to, in the morning, MSNBC. Later at night, I may watch Tucker Carlson, who I think does a tremendous job, just to get both sides of it.
Tucker Carlson.
And somewhere, in the middle is the truth. But with election time and the way they're spinning it, it's usually far left or it's to the right.
Well, it's funny because to me, one of the big changes in our country years ago, I remember like Walter Cronkite. Okay,
yeah, sure.
You would get one perspective, and you had to make up your own mind. Today, if you listen to MSNBC, no matter what, there is nothing the Republicans that can do that's right.
Nope.
And if you listen to Fox, Fox is a little more neutral, but still they're
neutral. Neutral to what?
No, neutral where they'll give.
Both
they're not all Republican all the time. Okay, they're mostly they are, but it's better than MSNBC. Forget about it.
If Trump came up with the vaccine himself in the White House, MSNBC would say it wasn't fast enough.
Well,
I get it.
No matter what he does, he's wrong.
But I think Tucker does a really good job.
Very good job.
He also goes after the right. He goes after the Republicans and saying they're just too weak, they're not communicating, they're not standing up, for the people who put him in office. There's a fear factor out there. If you go too far, one way or the other, you're going to get criticized, and I don't think that's serving us as
I'm not a silent majority.
A
silent majority.
I do what you guys do. I listen to both sides, and then I make my own opinion. I form my own opinion based on what I hear and what I see. People, fortunately, I think very unfortunately, drink the Kool-Aid on the left, and they drink the Kool-Aid on the right. And everybody else in the world lives in the middle someplace. And you could go back and forth. There are issues that I believe that Republicans have that I agree with. There are issues that I don't agree with. There are issues that the Democrats bring up that I agree with, and some that I don't agree with. You have to be an independent thinker. You have to think for yourself. But the people, the extremists on both sides, are what's really polarizing this country. It's both sides are both responsible. They're both responsible, and that's all the media wants to play. MSNBC wants to show you a riot, and they want to show you the reasons why there's a riot. Fox wants to show you the riot, and they want to show you the same riot, and they want to say, lock these vigilantes up. MSNBC says, well, this is why they're protesting.
Well, there's a lot of... MSNBC is going to show a riot and say that people need to riot because of Donald Trump. And Fox is going to say they're rioting because they defunded the police department.
Well,
And
what do you
that's-
think, what do you think about the defunding of the police
The
department?
defunding. Go ahead.
The defunding the police is a bunch of bullshit, because what they really want to say is we want to reallocate funds
Correct.
to different organizations, different parts of the government. I'm okay with it, but don't call it defund the police. You defund the police, just the thought of defunding the police is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. If you want to appropriate funds, or you want to get more federal money for social services, for that kind of thing, I'm all for it. Because that's a big part. Mental health is a major, major issue. But don't say that you're going to defund the police. Where do you take the money from the police? These poor guys put their lives on the line every single day. They got to take more shit than anybody in the world.
I heard.
And there's bad cops. We know that there's bad
bad
cops.
everything, though.
There's bad everything. Exactly.
But a small percentage.
You can't paint them with a broad brush. You can't say they're all bad.
Correct.
That's
Well,
bullshit.
I heard on one of the stations that they want social workers now. That if there's a
What
domestic
are they gonna do?
dispute,
So
they want a social worker to come in rather than
But
the police.
look, I'm all for, as a criminal defense attorney, I'm all for alternatives to incarceration. I really am. There are people out there, and I've seen it. I've been doing this 31 years. I average about 150 to 200 new cases a year, and there are people that I deal with that I know will be criminals forever. Forever. There's no rehabilitation. It is what they are. But I'll tell you what, there's a majority of people that had they gotten a break, or drug rehabilitation, or alcohol counseling,
I agree.
they probably wouldn't be doing what they're doing. You got
completely
young
agree.
kids today.
But that has nothing to do with defund the police.
Well,
No, it
it's
doesn't. That's what they want to do. They want to take the
They
money.
want to take that narrative
Take that
and take
money
it from
right.
the cops.
I'm sorry, but they took $1 billion away from the New York City Police Department. That didn't take that $1 billion and say, all right, we're throwing that in the garbage. We're throwing that back in the till. They took the $1 billion and they're trying to throw it into drug rehabilitation, social services, alcohol counseling, career resources.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting. I live in Baltimore, and the cigar shop I go down there to, it's called Davidoff's. They have 13 cigar shops. They actually upstairs, as long as it's 6 feet apart, where typically is about 35 to 40 people, now we have about 8 people. Well, what's interesting, we have Baltimore City police officers, Baltimore County. And the Baltimore City police officers have been saying for years, let's bring in the National Guard to Baltimore City. That it can't be corrected just by them being on the street because their hands are tied. If you looked at the riots in Baltimore, you look at other riots.
Look at Portland.
I think what's sad
What
is
about Portland?
when police
Portland.
officers' hands are tied and can't defend themselves because there's cameras rolling all the time on social media, you're put in a very precarious situation.
There's a major difference between protest and riot. Protest, I agree with 1,000%. That's what this country was built upon. We're allowed to protest. You have a right to protest peacefully. But if you have 100,000 people in Times Square protesting peacefully, chanting, holding signs up, God bless them, I'd be with them for whatever cause. I'd be with them for the George Floyd thing. I would. Because those police officers need to be held accountable. That's my opinion. Now, if you take 100 people out of that 100,000, and you call them Antifa, you want to put names on them, whatever they are, they're just anarchists. They want to mess everything up for everybody else. And so a couple of stores get broken into, a couple of police cars get bombed, firebombed, and everything else. The press goes right to that. The media goes right to that and shows that. Focus on the 100,000. Those 100 people need to be arrested. Now, the problem is what happened. When those 100 people started getting arrested in New York because of bail reform, they got arrested on Tuesday night. On Wednesday night, they were back on the street
Tuesday
doing the same
afternoon,
shit
they
all
were out.
over again.
They were out
It's unbelievable. It's terrible.
So what do you think about de Blasio? You're
an
mayor
idiot.
for New York City.
He's an idiot.
Well, look, let's face it. New York has gone back to where it was,
But beyond that,
maybe
It's
beyond.
beyond that.
It's unbelievable. I mean, you see pictures in the newspaper now. All these vagrants on the streets.
The last time New York
you
was
see
this bad,
today?
Lindsay was mayor.
Today we had
That's a long time
1,000.
ago.
Today we hit 1,000 victims in New York today.
Unbelievable.
Today.
I mean, Giuliani and Bloomberg did a
Great job.
Did a great
Unbelievable
job.
job.
Absolutely.
I mean, did an unbelievable job. In fact, one of my friends lives on 23rd in New York, and his wife works, and she walks to work. The other night, she was walking down the street, and one of the vagrants came up and started groping her.
Do you remember Bryant Park back in the day
Oh,
when,
it's beautiful.
when they came in and what a great job they did?
Gorgeous.
Okay, taking care of it, phenomenal, and and now it's going back to
But
where
a lot
it
of
used
this,
to be.
a lot of this goes back to what we said a few minutes ago about mental health care. There's no mental institutions. You can't get these homeless people on the street. You mean to tell me that they're all normal, they're all okay, that everything's fine with them?
They either have a
need
mental
help.
illness or they
Where's
have a drug
Where's the
addiction.
help? You got to get them. I don't know what the answer is. It's
Most
not
of
easy.
the people that have addictions to drugs have an underlying mental illness, and they are self-treating themselves. And if you are able to diagnose that mental illness and treat the mental illness, you are more than likely to stop their drug use. But back to New York for a second. You have nobody working anymore. You have no traffic anymore.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't like de Blasio in the least, but with all due credit to him, you now have all of these streets open. You have nobody going to work to police what's going on. If you have all these office buildings filled with people coming in and out every day, I would tell you crime would probably plummet again. But when's that going to happen? Was it Amazon said they're not going back to work until 2021?
Yeah.
All right, on that note, let's take a break.
In 1993, John Gwaltney dubbed himself Senior Juan and founded Senior Juan Cigars. John prided himself on offering up equal helpings of quick wit, hot coffee, and fine premium cigars in no particular order. His zeal for storytelling and creating a great atmosphere to enjoy a cigar drew in fans and customers. Today, we are proud to build upon the foundations of what John created in order to make your cigar smoking experience even better. The best selection of premium cigar brands, the finest accessories, and Senior Juan's famous hand-rolled cigars, all while making sure we never lose sight of keeping the shop a friendly, relaxing spot to enjoy a smoke. Is your business in need of COVID PPE products? eClean has FDA-approved products and service both public and private sectors nationwide with products such as KN95 masks, nitro gloves, hand sanitizers, and disinfectant. eClean understands the importance of keeping you healthy and safe. For more information, please call eClean at 305-969-8754. That's 305-969-8754. In this new day and age of online meetings and presentations, you need the best team at the ready. Whether broadcasting your Zoom meetings to Facebook Live or live streaming a fundraiser event, Surreal Streaming Services, with over 10 years of experience, can add confidence to your next live stream event. Call or text 646-498-8888 or visit sur-real.com. Worldwide Distributors E-Lighting has over 30 years of experience converting residential and commercial properties into LED lighting nationwide. If you are interested in a free survey, want to learn about rebates that might be available in your area, call E-Lighting at 305-969-8754. You can start saving today. That's 305-969-8754.
Welcome back to Shades of Havana. Mario, I meant to ask you a question before. Being a criminal attorney, I was always curious about this. When you get an initial meeting with a client, do you want to know whether he's guilty or not?
Never. Unless I think it's a self-defense case. If I believe that the story I'm hearing is a self-defense case, then I need to know. But if I find out under normal circumstance, you're charged with killing your next door neighbor, and you come in and you say, Mario, you need to defend me. I just shot my next door neighbor and killed him. It takes one of my tools away from me. I could never put you on the stand.
Wow.
Because if you say something other than I killed my neighbor, I'm suborning perjury because I know the truth. I know you did do it. So that's why I don't ask it. It leaves a tool in my toolbox that I can use.
No matter what, you want your client to say not guilty.
I don't ask them.
Right.
I don't ask them.
Oh, okay.
You know, I lead the conversation. You know what happened, and I look. You walk into my office, probably within 20 minutes, I know what the end result is going to be.
Right.
I got a feel for this.
You can tell.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think in the COVID world now? We have. Are you going to feel comfortable taking a vaccine?
No, from another country?
No. Even in
I'm saying,
even if it's the United States.
Mario, would you be comfortable taking a vaccine when it comes out of the gate?
Yes.
You know what I'm most frightened about is the fact that we've had the flu for all these years and we still couldn't come up with a vaccine for that. What makes you think we're going to come up with a vaccine for COVID?
Or even when they do have the vaccine for the flu, it's only for certain strains.
Right.
Correct.
So, there's many people that do get a flu shot and still end up getting sick.
Well, as they say, there's 70% is a high level for a year for a vaccine. What they're hopeful of, as Dr. Fauci said the other day, he says if it gets to 50 to 60%, and we have multiple vaccines that are brought out by these pharmaceutical companies, they look at that as a huge success. The question is, how long is that going to last? Because nowadays we've had 2 people in the United States who have COVID for the second time.
Right.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Right.
That's very
Well, they
scary.
say even if
That's
they
very
have a
scary.
vaccine in the United States, there's going to have to be boosters.
Correct.
Where you're going to have to take maybe 2 or 3 boosters during the course of the year.
Like polio.
It's a bad, I don't know, it's a bad situation. I'm hoping that we do come up with a vaccine. I'm also hoping that we come up with some therapy. Now, it does seem that people are not getting as sick as they did in the beginning.
I think the
Absolutely.
virus
that's
is weakening. I'm not a doctor, but from everything that you're reading here, the virus itself is weakening, and that's good news. The amount of deaths are down significantly. That's very good news. I mean, we got to look at the positives of this too.
There's a lot of positives. That's
look
correct.
at what New York and New Jersey did. Whether you like the governors there or not, doesn't matter.
Right, I agree with that.
But I mean, God, they did a phenomenal job. They did. I mean, look at the numbers. We went from up here to down here. Florida's blowing up all over the place. Texas, Arizona, Louisiana. I mean, it's bad.
Well,
in a lot
it's
of places.
interesting because, whether you like Trump or not like Trump, I mean, there's things that he's done that I like. There's things he hasn't done, that he's done I haven't liked. The problem is, I think the one mistake we made was, I think we should have made a national decision
agree.
that in the whole United States, people have to wear masks. I mean, the problem is that we have different states that are all acting differently, and those people are going to a state where they are acting okay,
Right.
and they're infecting other people.
Well,
Italy-
constitutionally, the state has the right to make the decision, and that's why President Trump couldn't make that decision
Yeah.
across the board.
I mean,
so
Italy
as you
shut
said,
down. They closed
yeah.
the country.
Right.
But that now, if you look at Europe as a continent, right? There's so many different. I don't know how many countries. There's a lot of countries
Lot.
in Europe,
There's a
but
lot.
they all run differently. They all have different plans in place. In this country, it's the same thing. Every state does things differently than the other state. Unfortunately, we didn't have a federal mandate or an umbrella over what the states could and couldn't do because there was no agreement between the federal government and the state governments on what to do. But the federal government should have paid attention to what worked in New York, what worked in New Jersey. But even at that, there's going to be people who are going to buck the system at all costs. They're going to look at, if you heard Murphy yesterday, what did he talk about? He talked about 4 places in New Jersey that he's going to shut down if they don't get their act together. 10th Avenue Burrito in Belmar, Donovan's, DJ's in Belmar.
Donovan's was one of the things.
Donovan's again. There was another, I forget the other, but there was a couple of them where these people
It's
are
all
on
the
top.
shore, though.
Well,
They're
and-
on top of each other. At the beaches, some beaches limit how many people could go on a beach. Other beaches, they just keep selling tickets. They just keep flooding people in.
Well, it's
and people
interesting.
don't social distance. They're animals.
Bill and Maryland and Mario and David, it's county by county. So the Governor
Yeah,
Hogan
hey,
said,
right.
listen, it depends. As you as the executive of your county, you make a decision.
Everybody's
So when he
passing
first
the buck.
opened it up, everyone was very trepid. They were concerned about what was going to go on. You have an election year. So slowly they've opened up more, but several of them have shut back down rather than having in-house dining. Now you can only sit outside, which is nice because, again, we know it's a lot better being
What's going to
outside.
happen, though, when the fall comes and it gets colder?
Well,
That's a
it's the
concern.
same thing you got now. I mean, when it's 97 and humid, do you really
don't wanna
wanna
sit outside.
You want to sit on Route 9 and
I got
and
flies.
Harbaugh?
I got flies and mosquitoes
Yeah,
in my
it's
salad. I
crazy.
didn't pay for that.
I mean, everybody rushed out when they first able to eat outside. Everybody rushed out. I mean, I did. The day they said you can eat outside, the first thing I did is take my wife and go eat. It was nice to get out of the house.
Yes,
And
I agree.
cook. I love to cook.
Well-
Have somebody prepare a meal for you. But when it was 97 and hot, I'd rather be in my yard, in my pool, barbecuing some chicken.
Right, and then go in the air conditioning
Yeah.
and relax like
Well,
a human being.
Right.
And what's interesting is I was listening earlier, golf at public golf courses and at country clubs, no matter where, golf has picked up significantly, which
Yeah.
is a great thing.
It's
Yep.
one
You're
of the things that
outside.
you can do. with
Thank
social
God.
distance.
Absolutely, and it has grown significantly, and that's what we look to do.
My club, you as a member, you could get out whenever, and you never waited. You always had free reign. Now, it's we're packed.
Well, I mentioned earlier, I mean, on a Tuesday, we normally would have about 45 rounds. We had 200 last Tuesday.
Unbelievable.
Just
Wow.
that we're up this year 4,000 rounds.
Wow.
4,000.
What else are you going to do?
And the
Well,
course
there you
looks
go.
great, though.
Yeah,
For
no.
all that play,
With
this
all that
course
play,
is
and it's been
unbelievable.
humid, and the course has been stressed a little bit.
Yes.
And our super.
It's fabulous. Your
Nobody's
super does a
traveling on
fabulous
vacation.
job.
Nobody's everybody's staycating.
Yeah,
They're staying
you're right.
home and they're doing their vacation.
We
What are you
were
going to do? You
supposed
go
to be in
golf, you go
Europe.
to
I
the
was supposed
beach.
to be in Europe right now. Supposed to be in Holland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, they're not talking about Holland. The other thing too is what's going on in Europe with the virus. I don't hear anything. What's happening with
Well,
other
because we
countries?
have 24-hour news networks, we got 100 of them, and they don't report that stuff. You
Gotta
know, we
watch
get,
the BBC.
you got to watch the.
Gotta watch
You got to
BBC.
watch BBC. You're
I like
absolutely
BBC.
right.
No, but how
I agree.
is Europe
I agree.
doing? I mean, are they doing better, or are they?
Yeah, they're doing much better.
What Germany's ran into a little bit of a problem recently. They were tracking very well, and unfortunately, their numbers have spiked. So they're putting a lot of their
England doesn't want us there.
No, nobody wants us.
Nobody wants us.
Nobody wants it. You could go to the Caribbean, though. Now,
Well,
I'm
we
gonna,
had a trip in Grenada in December. We were going to Grenada. And I'm still hopeful that I'm going to be in Grenada in December, but you don't know.
Well,
how'd you like to be an executive on a cruise line, right?
Forget
Oh
about
my
it.
God!
I go to Aruba
They
every
should just sink
Christmas.
them and make fishing reefs out of
Aruba
them.
now, when you go there, they have the right to test you. If they think that you potentially are sick, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks there, and then when you come back, you have to quarantine here. How can you even think about going away?
No, you go on a cruise ship, you could get a staph infection. You throw up and have diarrhea. Half the people do anyway all the time. Now you got COVID on top of it. Who's going on a cruise ship? What idiot's getting on a cruise ship?
Well, Royal Caribbean announced today that their passengers are
Slowly
up,
coming back up.
slowly,
Is that right?
higher than they ever expected.
Have fun.
All right, well, listen, gentlemen, I want to thank you for a wonderful day. Mario,
Thank you.
Nice
Great day.
job.
Great day. Thank you.
It was great sharing Shades of Havana and Hollywood Golf Club. We're looking forward to visiting other cigar lounges throughout the country, also visiting other golf courses, and taking the episodes on the road. So thank you for partaking today, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you for having us here as a
Well,
wonderful
wonderful
host.
host.
Thanks a lot.
Great
you.
host.
Absolutely
Good job,
great
Aaron.
day.
Thank you.
Thank you
Good
so
job.
much.
Great club too. Thank you.